I was reborn. Reborn on the very night I won the lottery. Holding that lottery ticket, looking at my vibrant reflection in the mirror, I smiled. They say, goodness begets goodness, evil begets evil, retribution is inevitable, it's only a matter of time. I never believed it before, but the moment I was reborn, I finally did. Because Celeste and Nolan, your hell is coming. In my previous life, after learning I'd won the lottery, I immediately called my best friend Celeste and enthusiastically told her, I'll take care of you from now on. I couldn't sense her happiness, but at that time I just assumed she was exhausted from work lately, so I hastily ended the call. I went to claim the prize myself, having researched extensively online. The general advice was not to tell others about the win, so I followed this guidance and only shared the news with my best friend Celeste. The lottery prize was 5 million, and after going through the procedures and paying taxes, I received exactly 4 million. For someone like me, earning just 5,000 a month, this was nothing short of a miracle. I slept soundly that night, and the next day, I took the prize money to the mall, planning to buy something to surprise Nolan. But the moment I arrived at the mall, I received a tearful call from Celeste. Dara, Nolan has been in a car accident and urgently needs money. He's at his wit's end, the other party said they'll send him to jail if he doesn't pay the compensation. I really don't know what to do. Can you help us? My face paled slightly, with a sense of foreboding. How much do you need? It's a Rolls-Royce. The other party is demanding 3 million in compensation. Nolan is currently unconscious in the hospital, and the doctor says he may need another million for surgery. That makes a total of 4 million. My heart sank. The amount didn't seem like an urgent need but rather a carefully calculated sum, as if they knew exactly how much money I had on hand. I hesitated and stayed silent. The other party sent me the photos directly. It was clear that the person taking the pictures had shaky hands, making it hard to see the brand of the car in front, but just from the photos alone, it was obvious the accident was quite severe. But these were savings I could never accumulate in my lifetime. Seemingly sensing my hesitation, Celeste on the phone grew impatient and snapped at me in frustration. Dara, I know you won 5 million, and you must have at least 4 million after taxes. Lives are at stake, money can always be earned again, but once a life is gone, it's gone forever. Have you forgotten how good Nolan has been to you? Something felt off, but deep down, I still couldn't believe Celeste would lie to me. We grew up together in the orphanage since childhood, relying on each other all these years. How could she possibly deceive me? Moreover, just as Celeste said, Nolan has indeed treated me quite well. Alright, this is all the savings I have on hand. Back then, I never thought about why the two of them were together, nor did I question why it was Celeste who informed me about Nolan's accident. And I certainly never wondered why the amount matched exactly what remained of my lottery winnings after taxes, and that, of all days, it happened to be on the very day I received my prize. Later, because the bank couldn't process large transfers immediately, we had to bounce the money between several accounts. When the anti-fraud call reached my phone, warning me that I might have been scammed, my confused mind finally gained a sliver of clarity. I tried calling Celeste and Nolan, but both their numbers were completely unreachable. In a panic, I drove Nolan's car to the hospital to demand answers, only to discover the brakes had failed. I died in the crash. In that last blurred moment of consciousness, as I desperately cried for help, I saw two figures standing right in front of me. Their voices pierced my ears with crystal clarity. Dara, don't blame me and Nolan. We truly love each other. After you die, we'll live well with your prize money, carrying your luck with us. One should have been in the intensive care unit, and the other should have stayed faithfully by my side, watching as I lost my breath until death took me. Yet at that time, I was still alive. My thoughts snapped back to the present. I don't believe I was wrong in my actions in my previous life. I was simply kind and was taken advantage of, my vision clouded by deception. The blame should not lie with me, but with those who did me harm. So in this life, they won't get to live peacefully. I'll make sure they suffer a fate worse than death. My phone screen still displays the moment I told Celeste about my lottery win. A sharp, urgent ringtone blares. It's Celeste calling. Just one day remains before I receive the prize money, and before Nolan gets into that car accident. Vera, did you really win the lottery? 5 million? Listening to her shrill voice, I felt nothing but disgust and nausea at that moment. But the act wasn't over yet, and as the lead role, she naturally deserved my full cooperation in this performance. Yes, Celeste. I just checked the winning numbers, 5 million. Celeste's enthusiasm waned after confirmation. I knew exactly why she seemed less interested. She must have already started planning with Nolan on how to get their hands on that money. In my previous life, I didn't understand, only knowing that Nolan was considerate and treated both me and Celeste well. But now, looking back, I realize it wasn't kindness at all, it was because the two of them had long been secretly involved. I was just their ATM. When Nolan had no money, I paid the rent. When Celeste was broke, she would freeload meals and even borrow money. Enduring strong feelings of disgust, I made small talk with a distracted Celeste for a few moments before I could no longer hold back and hung up the phone directly. After hanging up, I rushed to the bathroom and retched for a while, then washed my face. Looking up at the clock, I saw that there were still 48 hours left until my death in the previous life. I arrived at the lottery shop early to claim my prize, instructed the owner not to use my identity for any promotional purposes, shed my previously cheap clothes, visited high-end boutiques to splurge on luxury items, and had the sales assistants apply bold makeup for me. Dressed in pure gold jewelry, looking striking enough to turn heads, I took a taxi to the largest nightclub in the city. Since Celeste and Nolan wanted to stage a car accident, I decided to play along. But unlike the last life, where they orchestrated the crash, this time things wouldn't be so simple. The manager, taking one look at my attire, rushed over to serve me attentively. "Miss, what would you like?" he asked. I glanced at the waiters in the establishment and casually asked, "Which of these can I take out with me? I need to hire an actor to play a role with me, paying 100,000 a day. Money can move even the devil." The manager immediately led me to a booth and summoned a group of men. But none of them suited my preference, until I spotted a man following behind the manager. Dressed in a black suit, he didn't look like one of the entertainers here. Instead, he resembled the CEO of some listed company, exuding an air of someone wealthy and not to be trifled with. Exactly the effect I was aiming for. Him, then. The supervisor followed my pointing finger and was about to speak when the man raised his hand. The supervisor immediately fell silent. The man's expression remained unchanged as he gave me a faint, casual glance. "Miss, you truly have excellent taste. The two of you may continue your discussion. I won't disturb you any further." With that, he led the remaining group of giggling girls away. Even the ones who had been batting their eyes at me earlier left quietly under the supervisor's guidance. I got the impression this man wasn't simple, likely the top act at this nightclub. But given the price I'd offered wasn't low, securing his company shouldn't be a problem. "This isn't a good place to talk." I booked a private room with good soundproofing and brought the man inside. The man showed no expression, his face bearing the typical domineering CEO look that appeared quite intimidating. Perfect, just my type. After settling on the sofa, I asked him directly, "What's your name?" The man studied me up and down before answering, "Roman." The name sounds vaguely familiar, probably one of those typical setups for male leads in web novels. I didn't dwell on it and got straight to the point. "I need you to do something for me. This must be kept absolutely confidential. I'll pay you 100,000 per day, 200,000 for 2 days. You can think about it, but I don't have much time." Roman looked at me and nodded. "As long as it's not illegal. I need you to rent a Rolls-Royce and park it at a location I'll specify tomorrow afternoon." I looked at him and began detailing my plan. "Tomorrow night, a man will hit you with his car. You." I originally wanted him to stay in the car. After all, if Nolan himself took action, he definitely wouldn't hit too hard. But staring at that exquisitely handsome face, I suddenly found it hard to say the words. what if it got injured? The small bonus in my hand might not be enough to cover the damages. So, I changed the plan. You'll stand nearby, not too far. When the car hits yours, you insist that your car is priceless and demand compensation. If they refuse, threaten to call the police. Roman nodded without asking further. Remember to keep costs under control when renting the car, and make sure the boss issues an invoice. After all, with Roman's looks, even renting a compact van would seem expensive. I finished speaking and stood up directly. Hope we have a pleasant collaboration. I'll be visiting again in the future. Then I turned and left without hesitation. Back home, I took out a personal accident insurance policy for Nolan, with myself as the beneficiary. I then altered the electronic policy to change the beneficiary to Celeste and adjusted the date of application to the previous night. Finally, I printed it out at the neighborhood print shop. Ending their lives would be too simple, but watching them tear each other apart would be far more entertaining. I sent Nolan a blurred photo of the printed electronic policy, revealing only the crucial details. Darling, today while tidying up the bed, I found a printed document from Celeste's cabinet. Why did you take out insurance? Have you been feeling unwell lately? Nolan has always been selfish and highly suspicious. At the slightest hint of something unusual, his first instinct isn't to confront those involved but to start jumping to conclusions. It didn't take long for Nolan to reply, "Honey, where did you find this insurance policy?" Pretending to be innocent, I replied, "I found it in Celeste's clothes. She came home in a rush yesterday and just threw her clothes down before leaving. Since she has work on Monday, I tidied up for her." Perhaps because the persona I built was too convincing, Nolan didn't suspect me. Instead, he reminded me not to mention this to Celeste. I obediently replied with okay, thoughtfully inquired about when his business trip would end, and then ended the conversation. The message ended, and I glanced at the time. There were still 18 hours left before my car accident. I peacefully took a nap. After waking up, I dressed in the new clothes delivered to the counter, applied a flawless makeup, then went to the scene of the incident. I found the best vantage point and watched the unfolding chaos below. The shabby red car was already parked in its original spot. It was never a Rolls-Royce to begin with. No wonder Celeste's photos were so shaky back then, the phone couldn't focus. If it weren't for the shaking, the car would have been exposed immediately. As I watched Celeste and Nolan walk away after settling everything, I decisively made a call to report illegal parking. The red car was towed away for violating traffic rules, while the black Rolls-Royce smoothly parked in the spot. Sipping my coffee, I observed the scene I had meticulously orchestrated. Back then, Celeste had suggested loosening the brakes to ensure Nolan's acting would be more convincing and the effect more realistic, but Nolan firmly opposed the idea. Celeste was merely an observer, but Nolan himself had to be directly involved to create the most authentic collision. Only this way would the police actually arrive, making the filming effect more realistic. He was naturally afraid of getting hurt, but Celeste eventually released the brakes just enough to avoid casualties, while ensuring the collision effect appeared completely genuine. In the previous life, because their plan succeeded so quickly, Nolan never pursued the matter. But in this life, upon seeing the insurance policy, Nolan would never remain as silent as he had been before. I watched everything unfold below, then narrowed my eyes at the man stepping out of the Rolls-Royce. Dressed in black clothes and long pants, his tall and slender figure exuded an icy elegance that spoke of wealth. Even as he stepped out of an eighth-hand rented Rolls-Royce, his aura remained untarnished. No one would ever suspect the car was leased. This is the kind of man one should find, I thought to myself with certainty. I waited until 8 o'clock in the evening when the car started right on time. Watching it speed forward, I felt thoroughly satisfied. The collision between the two cars created a massive impact. Nolan stumbled out of the vehicle, his face covered in blood but his mind still clear. The first thing he did after getting out was to check on the car in front. Perhaps it was fear at the first sight of this car. It clearly looked expensive and beyond ordinary means. Celeste had originally intended to come out to take photos, but upon seeing Nolan and the crashed car, her phone slipped from her hand and fell to the ground. Her immediate reaction wasn't to rush to Nolan but to the car in front. "This isn't right. This isn't the car we arranged." Before Celeste could finish speaking, Nolan slapped her across the face. "Stupid woman, what nonsense are you spouting? Shut up." After speaking, she gestured toward the dash cam nearby. Celeste immediately fell silent, though her eyes kept darting forward. Roman happened to step out from a nearby cafe at just the right moment, furrowing his brows as he scrutinized the car with an air of professionalism before turning his gaze to the people before him. "Hello, I'm the car owner. Is this your vehicle?" Celeste studied the man in front of her. As a luxury boutique employee, she was well versed in most high-end brands. Taking in his outfit, her face paled. That car was undoubtedly the real deal, a Rolls-Royce. "I'm so sorry, sir. Our car's brakes failed, and we accidentally hit yours," Celeste said in a sweet, coquettish voice, starting to strike a pose. Nolan looked at Celeste and secretly spat in disgust. He hadn't even settled the score with her about the brake incident yet, but for now, he had to deal with this matter first. Roman didn't bother looking at Celeste and instead glanced at the car before speaking. "The price of this car is $12 million. Although the damage exceeds 60%, I can offer you a discount. Give me $3 million, and we can settle this privately. If not, we'll see each other at the police station." The two of them let out a long sigh of relief. Even if it were $3 million, they'd still net a clean profit of $1 million. Though a bit of a loss, it was still acceptable. Celeste looked at Roman and nodded. "Wait a moment, handsome, let me make a call. This'll be resolved right away." The sound in my earphones abruptly stopped as I watched my phone vibrate and tapped to answer. It was that familiar voice, Celeste speaking urgently. "Vera, Nolan and I were in a car accident. We need $4 million right now. Didn't you win the lottery? Hurry and transfer the money, Nolan's life is on the line. Without it, surgery might not be possible." The same old story. I stayed silent for a long time, saying nothing. Seeing my hesitation, Celeste immediately launched into the same manipulative routine she always used. "Vera, what's there to think about? Money can be earned back, but Nolan's waiting. You have $4 million, don't you know what you should do when your boyfriend's life is at stake?" I smiled, laughing at how foolish I had been in my past life. How could I not have seen through such an obvious lie? "Of course I know what I'm going to do," I said with a smile. Celeste let out a sigh of relief. "Then hurry up and transfer the money, it's life-saving funds, so we can't wait." I smiled. "When did I say I was going to transfer money to you? I just wanted to let you know that I know exactly what I should do. Wait till Nolan dies and come find me, I'll give him a grand funeral." After speaking, she hung up directly. Celeste wanted to say something but only heard the beeping tone from the phone. When she called again, it was all busy signals. Roman looked at Celeste with a hint of impatience. "It seems you can't handle this matter. Then we'll meet at the police station." With that, he took out his phone and prepared to make the call. Celeste clenched her teeth in anger, while I, far away on the second floor, smiled brightly. It was time to give them another little push. This drama was starting to feel slightly boring. I dialed Nolan's number, and he picked up instantly. "Hey, Vera, can you hear me? We're in a bit of trouble right now, and I need some money. I heard you won the lottery. Please, help me." Begging? In my previous life, when I struggled out of the car and begged them, their faces are still fresh in my memory. Who would have thought there'd come a day when he would beg someone too? I listened coldly to Nolan's words, stood up from my chair, and leaned on the railing, looking down at Nolan as he anxiously paced like an ant on a hot griddle, placing all his hopes on me. I listened to his words and spoke innocently. "Nolan, what are you talking about? The money has already been transferred to Celeste's account. She told me you were in an accident, how were you able to talk?" After all, the plan with Celeste initially was to ask for $1 million for surgery, which would have meant a very serious car accident. But my words successfully silenced him again, after which he faked a few painful coughs. Vera, thank you. I'll hang up now, the doctor is calling. Pretending to know nothing, I expressed my concern to the person before me. Nolan, take care of yourself. I'll come see you at the hospital right after work. If you need money, go ask Celeste. I gave her $4 million. Before he could say anything, I hung up the phone directly. From the moment she saw the insurance policy, to the brake being deliberately tampered with to cause a real accident, Nolan was no longer Celeste's most loyal partner but a sharp dagger ready to stab her. The wicked always think of themselves first, so they have no friends. After hanging up the phone, Nolan's eyes glinted like a scorpion's as he glared at Celeste before him. Where's the money? Celeste thought Nolan's phone call would make me compromise, but never expected Nolan to wear such an expression after hanging up, immediately starting to prove his innocence. I didn't receive a single cent. I just called Vera, and she said she'd give you a grand funeral. Before she could finish speaking, Nolan grabbed Celeste's hair. Don't think I don't know what's going through your mind. Let me tell you, trying to hog it all? Not a chance. Nolan's grip was strong, and Celeste felt her scalp go numb. Nolan is no good guy, but Celeste isn't any better either. At first, she tried to explain herself, but now that her hair was being pulled, she immediately got upset. Not only did she not get the money, but she was also framed. Nolan, let go of me. The two were completely tangled in a fight, pulling each other's hair without any semblance of dignity. I chuckled lightly, as if watching my two pets fighting over a bite of food. Just as I was getting into it, a man's curious laugh came through my headphones. Is it that funny? I froze for a moment before remembering that, in order to clearly hear the conversations on site, Roman and I had remained on the call. Not only could I see and hear every move and word on the stage, but Roman was equally aware of my every action and word. I looked at the man under the tree and, feeling relatively light-hearted, decided not to interrupt him directly. Instead, I began to explain. Originally, the two dogs intended to deceive their owner and take all the food for themselves. But the owner gently told one of the dogs, I've given all the food to the other one, you two can divide it. Yet the other dog insisted it had received nothing. So the two began fighting over the food. Listening to the gentle voice of the woman, Roman asked curiously, why didn't they suspect the owner? I chuckled lightly. Because the owner had long since handed the evidence of their theft to the dog who got nothing, and besides. I paused for a moment, propping my chin on my hand as I looked downstairs. How gentle the master is, no way they'd deceive their little dog. Roman didn't say a word, and neither did I continue the conversation. We were all smart people. What needed to be known was known, and what shouldn't be was left unsaid. Through the earpiece, I continued giving orders. Enough of this farce. Tell them that if they don't pay up, we'll call the police immediately, and file a lawsuit for attempted murder. Roman didn't take the bait right away. Reporting this could expose our dealings. They know about our connection. Are you sure you want to push forward? Do as I say, I said coldly. The explanation was clear when it needed to be, and the high daily wage wasn't paid for his pretty face. When it was time to work, he needed to work. Roman approached the two still fighting with his hands in his pockets. I don't care what your relationship is, but my car hasn't been repaired yet, and I haven't received any compensation. If I don't get a solution within 10 minutes, I'm calling the police. Even though I wasn't in the car, this is attempted murder. He took out his phone and pretended to dial, but before he could even open the calling screen, Nolan's hand covered the phone. I'm sorry, some family matters haven't been properly handled, so the money might not be available right now. Once I sort out my affairs, I'll give you the money. I watched Nolan's actions and listened to his words. Everything was exactly as I had anticipated. Celeste and I are orphans, but Nolan isn't. Despite his poor character, he is a legitimate teacher, and his parents take pride in his profession. When Nolan first brought me home, his parents wore expressions that clearly suggested they thought I wasn't good enough for their son. But I earn $5,000 a month, while he makes only $2,800, and even has to hand 2,000 of that to his parents, supposedly to save up for our betrothal gift, so all our living expenses end up relying on me. In my previous life, I still felt insecure, so I willingly helped with laundry and cooking the first time I visited his home. Looking back, every bit of it feels like a complete joke now. Roman didn't respond. The quiet headset offered no sound at all until Roman cleared his throat, snapping me out of my thoughts. Agree to it. Fine, but I'll need both of your IDs as collateral, Roman said, stepping up his game. I assume you've both heard of the Raventhal family in City A? I'll give you 7 days. If the 3 million doesn't land in my account by then, you can expect a court summons. The two of them tensed up. Naturally, they had heard of the Raventhal family, but they never expected to provoke someone from the Raventhal family, of all people. Nolan remained silent for a moment but was quite confident about the 3 million. As for the 4 million, no matter whose hands it was in, Nolan was sure he could get it. After all, he had been juggling 2 relationships for years without any issues. 4 million was hardly a problem. Fine. Nolan handed his ID to Roman. Celeste knew she was doomed the moment she heard the name Roman. She realized she had crossed someone she shouldn't have and immediately understood what choice she had to make. It was all his fault. This has nothing to do with me. You just need to hold on to his ID. Roman watched the farce with amusement, suddenly understanding why that woman found it so amusing. Now, he found it quite entertaining too. Nolan, who had already lost his trust in Celeste, completely lost his temper when he heard her words. He kicked her in the calf, forcibly took her ID from her bag, handed it to Roman, and dragged Celeste away from the scene. Ahahaha, I laughed, watching their entangled figures retreat. My laughter shook my entire body until my stomach ached. It lasted about 5 minutes before I finally regained control of my emotions. Watching these two tear each other apart didn't give me any sense of vengeful satisfaction. Instead, I felt my nose sting a little, realizing how pitiful my past self had been. Only after I'd laughed my fill did Roman's cool voice finally come through the headset. I handled it for you. Need me to do anything else? For some reason, even though they were just separated by a railing, Roman sensed an inexplicable loneliness emanating from the woman, as if no one in this world stood by her side anymore. Though a stranger, he suddenly felt an odd pang of sympathy for her. Listening to Roman's voice, I steadied myself. From now on, just keep pressing them for repayment at the intervals I told you. Come find me again once this matter is fully settled, the reward will satisfy you. Then I hung up the call with Roman. Roman looked up, his gaze landing on the fiery red figure on the second floor. It was about to become my stage, this game was far from over. I hailed a taxi and headed home. With nowhere else to go, these two strays would inevitably return home. Sitting in the back seat of the taxi, I activated the pinhole camera I had hidden in the underground garage. I checked the time. There were roughly 2 hours left until the car accident. Right about now, those two must be frantically tampering with my brakes in the underground garage. That car was just a means of transportation, already third-hand when I bought it. I only purchased it because my job required it. Little did I know it would end up being the very thing those two used to send me on my final journey. Upon reaching the underground garage, the two erupted into a furious argument. Hand it over. You clearly have 4 million with you, why won't you give it to me? Nolan glared at Celeste, his voice filled with anger. Vera told me everything, she transferred the money to you in batches. I never received any money you're talking about. Vera lied to you about everything. Celeste shot back at Nolan. She told me herself, if anything happened to you, she'd give you a grand funeral. Nolan looked at Celeste's appearance and took a few steps forward. Celeste, scared of being hit again, instinctively retreated. I really didn't lie to you. Seeing Celeste's reaction, Nolan wavered slightly. Noticing his hesitation, Celeste quickly opened her bank account and showed him the balance one by one. Nolan temporarily accepted Celeste's explanation. I had foreseen this step because Nolan doesn't love anyone, this man only cares about himself. So what do we do now? The Raventhal family is not someone we can afford to provoke. If we can't pay back the money within 7 days, the job I worked so hard to get will be lost. Nolan looked at Celeste for a long time before raising his head. I can trust you, but last time it was me who made the sacrifice. This time, it's your turn. Cut the brakes on Vera's car. Once she has an accident, all the money will be ours. Why me? If it wasn't for you tampering with my brakes, would I be desperate for money right now? Nolan's eyes gleamed with malice, but then he immediately embraced Celeste from behind. It's all right, Celeste. All of this is for our future together. Once this is over, I'll take you home. You'll be my wife, and we'll spend the rest of our lives together. Celeste's expression wavered slightly. Fine. With that, she immediately turned and embraced Nolan. In that case, here's the plan: you loosen the brakes on her car, then I'll call her away, letting her drive off in that vehicle. Tomorrow, rent a car identical to hers and park it nearby. Once she leaves, follow her, make absolutely sure she dies. Then everything will be ours. Nolan looked at Celeste and said, given her personality, she'd definitely crash in some deserted spot. If nothing happens by then, we can still. I smiled as I watched the surveillance footage. Nolan truly had a knack for crime, I had to admit. The neighbor's car was identical to mine. Back when I first noticed it, I'd even jokingly pointed it out to Nolan. Who would have thought he'd remember every detail? What a sharp memory. But then again, it worked to my advantage. After speaking, Nolan made a throat-slitting gesture, and Celeste nodded. Celeste still felt uneasy. But wouldn't the investigation into the car accident immediately reveal that it was caused by the brakes? Her car already doesn't meet the standards, and it's long overdue for maintenance. There's no way they'll find out. Only this way can we ensure she's silenced for good. Nolan said through clenched teeth. Though still somewhat skeptical, Celeste didn't argue. She was already in too deep, her ID was still being held as collateral. At this point, she had no choice but to go along with it. I looked at the sweet and affectionate couple on my phone screen and smiled. I knew Celeste would choose to believe Nolan because Nolan had all my passwords. Transferring my funds would be a piece of cake for him. Then I'll go home first to keep Vera in the dark. Make sure you arrange everything tomorrow, we have no other choice. Celeste nodded, and the two released their embrace. That day, neither of them came home, leaving me alone in the house. I went to bed early. Early the next morning, I arrived at the underground parking lot and spotted the white sedan already parked there. I then parked my car nearby. Later that evening, I watched through the surveillance footage as Celeste cut my brake lines. Thinking it was over, I prepared to have someone swap the two cars. Unexpectedly, after Celeste left, Nolan suddenly appeared in the underground parking lot. He climbed into another car and cut its brake lines as well. I smiled, never anticipating such an unexpected bonus. I saved the video clip on my phone and, after completing everything, sent the footage to Roman. After that day, I didn't want him to get involved too much, but I never expected him to take the initiative to volunteer. I was indeed short on staff, so I didn't refuse. At worst, I could just give him more money. I briefed him on the current situation, and he responded that he could handle it. Then I turned off my phone. Not long after, Celeste showed up at my doorstep. Concerned, I asked her what was wrong, but she just said she was tired and locked herself in her room. At the same time, I received a call from Nolan, saying he was at the hospital and urgently wanted to see me. I got off the phone and went straight to the parking garage, getting into the car that was specially prepared for me. However, instead of heading to the driver's seat, I sat in the passenger seat. Looking at Roman in the driver's seat, I couldn't help but find it a little amusing. Are you really sure about this? Can you handle it? Roman nodded. You didn't pay me for nothing. The car slowly started moving, not at a fast pace, and instead of heading toward the hospital, it veered onto a small road leading to the outskirts. Meanwhile, the surveillance cameras gradually activated. Celeste started the car and began accelerating. I smiled and promptly sent the video on my phone to Celeste. Take a look at your precious boyfriend that you're protecting. Then, I accessed the car surveillance camera feed from Celeste's vehicle and saw her expression turn grim as soon as she watched the video. But that wasn't enough. This woman was even more of a lovesick fool than I had been in my past life. I couldn't let it end here. I sent Celeste the insurance policy Nolan had bought for her, which I had someone investigate last night. Bon voyage. This policy was 100% real. Nolan had been missing all day yesterday because he was busy getting it done, purchasing a hefty insurance policy for Celeste with himself as the beneficiary. Through the video, I watched Celeste's expression grow increasingly grim. She kept calling me, but unfortunately, my phone had long been turned off. At last, she dialed Nolan's number. "Nolan, where are you? Vera just drove off, and I'm about to follow her. I also have great news to share. I'm pregnant with your child. Once this whole thing is over, let's keep the baby, okay?" A page or an electronic policy. Celeste's tears slowly fell. Nolan felt impatient listening. If tonight's plan succeeded, Celeste's insurance policy would directly pay out $10 million. After all, it was all Celeste's doing, and he had an alibi. By then, he would be the real winner in life. "Celeste, hurry and chase after Vera by car. Make sure she meets with an accident. Once tonight is over, I'll marry you and take you home." Nolan coaxed her. Celeste's tears instantly fell. "Then where will you wait for me? After I confirm everything is over, I'll come find you. After all, this is my first time doing something like this. It's a bit scary." Nolan frowned slightly with impatience. "I'll tell you when the time comes." "No. Send me your location now and take a picture, or I won't drive to meet you," Celeste said, continuing to steer the brakeless car. Reluctantly, Nolan sent his location along with a photo. It showed a nearby spot, a barbecue stall they often visited, with an accompanying image. Celeste smirked, immediately understanding Nolan's plan. The owner of that barbecue stall knew him, so after her and Vera's deaths, this would serve as his perfect alibi. Heart like dead ashes, I turned off my phone. "Wait for me." With that, I immediately shut off my phone and opened the car's navigation, setting the destination to the barbecue stall. I closed my phone. The rest was too easy to guess. Both of them were selfish people. Even if it meant mutual destruction, neither would let the other off easy. I turned off my phone and leaned back in my seat, glancing at Roman beside me. The man's profile had a certain ruggedness, not as icy as his front view. Curious, I asked, "Why did you come along?" "I already told you it's nothing good." Roman kept his eyes on the road as he drove. "Because I'm curious about what you're planning to do." I smiled. "Now you've seen it. Was it worth it?" Though I didn't actually do anything, I was still an insider, someone who knew everything but chose not to intervene, letting the two of them destroy each other. Unexpectedly, Roman turned his head slightly and smiled at me. It was worth it. I looked at his expression and suddenly didn't dare to meet his gaze directly. It was the same look I used to have when watching Nolan, completely and utterly devoted to this person. But now, I don't know if I deserve such affection. Leaning against the car window, I looked outside and found it almost laughable. Someone I've known for less than 2 days could sincerely tell me I was worth it, while those I've known for over 20 years wanted to take my life. I closed my eyes, pausing for a moment in thought. "How much do you charge per day? If I have enough money, I might keep you around a little longer." "1 cent. I smiled. "They say the best way to move on from the past is to start a new life." With a laugh, I said to Roman, "All right, if I get through this safely, I'll take care of you for life." "Deal." The shabby little car circled the racetrack again and again until it finally sputtered to a halt, completely out of fuel. I stepped out and looked at the news alert on my phone. A severe car accident occurred on Wutong Road. A white van crashed straight into a group of bystanders at a barbecue stall, killing 2 people instantly. Because of my relationship with both of them, I was called to the police station to give a statement. In the end, I left carrying the ashes of both. True to my original promise, I held the most extravagant funeral in the worst location in the city, burying the two of them together, in a sewer. A reply from the past echoed in my mind: if you won 5 million and your boyfriend needed 4 million for treatment, what would you choose? I'd give him a grand funeral. The rain pelted my face, leaving it damp. Turning away from the spot, I looked back. A black umbrella uniquely mine was waiting under the sun behind me. Step by step, I walked toward it, but that black umbrella rushed toward me instead. The rain stopped, and the skies cleared. I stood on the steps outside the cemetery, where the wind had swept Celeste and Nolan's names clean off the gravestones, as if they had never existed. Roman folded the umbrella and handed it to me. When his fingertips accidentally brushed mine, they carried a lingering chill from the rain, yet somehow it felt reassuring. "Let's go," he said. I nodded and casually tossed that umbrella into a roadside trash bin. "I won't need it anymore." He didn't ask why, just turned slightly to shield me from the glaring sunlight, as if blocking out all the lingering chill that might still try to reach me. Suddenly, I remembered the final scene from my past life, them standing under the headlights, laughing wildly, while I lay in a pool of blood, where even breathing had become a luxury. Now the tables have turned, and they weren't even left the right to breathe. But here I stand, the wind brushing my cheeks, carrying the scent of grass and earth, alive, warm. That was the moment I realized, revenge was never the end goal. It was merely about reclaiming what was rightfully mine, piece by piece, with my own hands. The money was taken back, my life was reclaimed, and even the dignity they had trampled was painstakingly pieced together by me, reshaped into something sharper. "Roman," I stopped in my tracks and looked up at him. I always thought I was pitiful, growing up in an orphanage, unloved and uncared for. Whenever I met someone, I clung too tightly, only to end up with my hands covered in blood. I paused and smiled. Looking back now, it wasn't all bad. At least this time around, I could clearly see who was worth holding on to. He didn't speak, just reached out, palm up, stopping before me. I placed my hand in his, locked tight by his grip. The warmth of our intertwined fingers burned hotter than any 5 million, any rebirth. "Let's go." This time it was my turn to speak. "Home." Behind me, that joint burial pit like a gutter grew increasingly blurred in the rain. And I never looked back. From then on, my good fortune would only be shared with those who deserved it.